All right, we're on.
Good evening. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning for January the 4th, 2024. Looks like we have no public hearing for tonight, so we'll open up with our public comments section, and our only thing on the agenda for that is the Woodland Subdivision 119. Mr. Burke, you want to bring us up to speed on that?
Westwoods.
Oh, Westwood, what did I say?
Woodland, but that's
Oh, okay.
all right.
It's Westwood, sorry. Thanks for the correction.
Westwood Farms preliminary plats, SUBD 119. The Westwood Farm Development LLC has submitted an application for a preliminary plat for a 21.82 acre tract of land east of North Highway 47 and north of Arlington Way at 1106 Steinhagen Road. Preliminary plat depicts 66 single-family lots. All lots include lot size and minimum frontage requirements meeting or exceeding the R2 medium-density single-family residential district. On the report, the image shows the plan lot configuration in the surrounding area. The proposed site will be accessed from Old Steinhagen Road, which will run north from McGee Avenue to Dogwood Drive, and from Pin Oak Drive. The plat shows a stub street to the east to allow for future connections of the subject site. The configuration allows for multiple access points, facilitates emergency response, and avoids conflict with incapable land use to the east from an access standpoint. The current configuration of the proposed parcel shows two lots. Lot 1, which is 0.82 acres containing the existing home and a detached garage located in the southwest portion of the property. Lot 2 is 21.0 acres is vacant. The proposal plat shows the existing house and the detached garage being removed, making room for 2 vacant lots. The new configuration will be made final with the approval and recording of the record plat. Staff has reviewed the proposed preliminary plat and found that the proposal is consistent with Chapter 410 of the Subdivision Regulation of Warrenton Municipal Code.
Thank you.
Engineer for the projects here has a presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so at this time. We'll come step to the podium, state your name, sir, and have your...
Good evening. I'm Mike Miners. I'm with St. Charles Engineering and Surveying.
Thank you.
With me this evening is Matt Thornton. He's the developer. He is going to develop the property under Westwood Farms Development LLC, and he owns MH Thornton Homes, and he'll be building the homes as well. Some of these will be repeats, but we're proposing a single-family residential subdivision on the 21.82 acres at 1108 Old Steinhouse Road, Hagen Road. The property is located about 300 feet from Highway 47 with 2 residential properties between Highway 47 and the site. Oakview Villas and Arlington condos are to the south. Northwoods Estates single-family residential subdivision is to the north, and as mentioned, there's undeveloped property to the east. Currently, there are 2 parcels included in the preliminary plat. As mentioned, the parcel with the 0.82 acres has a house on it. It was recently subdivided, but the existing home and the parcels will be re-subdivided with the record plat for the development. There you go. The property is zoned R2 medium density singular residential. The property to the east and to the north is zoned R2 as well. The property to the south is zoned C2 general commercial, even though adjacent to us, actually we did that many years ago. Our villas, the Arlington, Oakview and the Arlington multifamily development. The property to the east is zoned R3. Westwood, the future land use shows this property designated as multifamily residential. We're proposing to develop the site under the R2 current zoning for the site. As I mentioned, we're proposing 66 single-family residential lots that are 72 feet wide at the front building line. All construction shall conform to the City of Warrenton standards, obviously. Existing Steinhagen Road will be extended from McGee Avenue and Arlington Way to Dogwood Drive to the north and connected to Dogwood Drive within a 50-foot wide right-of-way. Will be dedicated to the city. 2 proposed streets, as mentioned, will connect to Old Steinhaus Road for the site access. There'll be a connection to Pin Oak, as mentioned, and then we'll do the stub street out to the east to the undeveloped parcel. And all streets will be proposed to be public once they're constructed and accepted by the city. About 17.44 acres of the property drains to the slopes and drains to the southeast. Actually, Arlington has a detention basin down in that corner of their property, or of that development site as well. There's a ridge that crosses the site, dividing about 4.38 acres that drains up to the northwest. Currently, there are sanitary sewers and a water line along the west side of the property in the location of Old Steinhagen Road. And near the southeast corner, there's actually a sanitary line that comes up from the parcel to the east and runs along our southern property line for ways. There's also water in Arlington. Ameren would provide the electric and gas, and there's other, Spectrum would provide the cable and internet, and there's other internet options as well. The single-family, as I mentioned, the single-family lots will be 72 feet wide and 140 feet deep to get 10,000 square foot lots. Each lot is a little bit larger than 10,000 square feet. That's as per the R2 standards. The minimum lot width is 70, minimum lot area is 10,000, front yard 30, side yard 10, rear yard 25. And we're conforming to all those requirements. As I mentioned, the development will have 66 lots. Then Westwood Farms Development LLC will actually develop those lots. The infrastructure for the subdivision, and the M.H. Thornton Homes will be constructing the homes. We actually didn't show this on the plat, but I wanted to point out that we plan to have an entrance monument off Old Steinhagen Road, the first street in the front of lot 66. An entrance monument for the subdivision will be placed there early in the construction. Stormwater management will be provided in the southeast corner and northwest corner of the sites, what's shown in blue, as those are the directions of the drainage. And we're proposing 2 cluster mailboxes, one on the street that cuts between the 2 main drags and have parking there, and then the second down by the curve at the detention basin within the common ground. There's pull off for each, 3 parking spaces provided. Sidewalks are shown on one side of the street as per the ordinance. We have submitted this to the Fire Protection District. They've reviewed the preliminary plat and agree that the plat meets the requirements of the International Fire Code and provides ample maneuvering room for the apparatus, for their apparatus. If the preliminary plat is approved, obviously we'll move straight into improvement plans. We submitted to the city staff for review and approval. And basically that's it. Matt can probably answer any questions you have about the homes. So.
Anyone have any questions for this gentleman at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Miners? Thank you, Mr. Miners. We'll open it up for comments time for anyone in the public that would like to have an opportunity to speak at this time. All you got to do is step to the podium and state your name. This will be your time to speak for the meeting tonight.
How many houses?
Can you step, you have to step to the podium and state your name.
An address.
Oh, yeah, and tell us where you live at over there.
I live on Arlington Court.
Okay?
The other two women either side of me, they live there too.
And what's your name, ma'am?
Denise Blevins.
Thank you, Ms. Blevins.
I've lived there for 4 years. And I have concerns about the houses being around where we live on Arlington Court.
And so what, you had a question, though, how many houses are you talking about?
Yeah, how many houses are going to be in that new area?
There'll be 66
66 is what it's.
On one plot?
Yeah, on the whole project.
parcel.
And tell me again where that would be located.
So it's just east of 47, and it's going to be north of, what's that, McGee, that runs down towards the east. It'll be on the north side of that,
Okay.
between that and Dogwood on the subdivision on the north side.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blevins. Anyone else have a comment at this time? Sir, step to the podium, speak your name.
Just a quick question. My name is Dave Nonheim.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't
Nonheim.
live in the community.
Okay.
I actually have some property off of AA to the east that's going to back up to it. And I'm just interested in how I would go about getting hard copies or electronic copies, either one, of the plans that have been submitted and talked about here.
You would contact Mr. Burks
Okay.
right there, and he could take care of that after the meeting tonight if you want to stick around.
Great.
I'll
Yeah.
give you my information.
I'll do
Give me
that.
your
Thank you very much.
information.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Burks. Anyone else have anything to state at this time? Hearing none, we'll close our public hearing or our public comment section for tonight's meeting and open up our regular meeting for January the 4th. And our first order of business will be the election of officers. So step right up and state.
Nominate Rich Barton as president.
I second.
We have a nomination and a second to keep the same president again.
You're doing such a great job.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept Mr. Barton by acclamation.
Second that.
Any other questions or comments? Do we need a roll call vote?
Just a voice vote would be great.
Voicemail. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Now we'll open up the vice chair.
I would make a nomination of Scott Costello for vice chair.
Second.
Cornell, Mr. Dieterman, motion for Mr. Costello. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Mr. Scott Costello remaining as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nobody wants that.
And we have the secretary,
Yes.
Ms.
It's-
Cullum.
Yeah, Ms. Cullum.
Yeah. Nominate
I'd make a motion to nominate Cheryl Cullum as secretary.
Second.
Mr. Cornell and Mr. Costello, first and second motion to retain Ms. Cullum as our secretary. Any other nominees? Hearing none. All in favor of Ms. Cullum remaining as our secretary, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So that's our slate. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our minutes from the December 7th, 2023 meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second that.
Motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mrs. Madden to approve the minutes as submitted. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Kelly Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
I abstain, I was absent.
Mr. Durbin is absent. Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Priest is absent. Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Mrs. Cullum?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one abstention and 2 absents. Next order of business will be the Westwood Farm Subdivision Preliminary Plat. Subdivision 119. Mr. Burks, you basically have already told us about that. So does anybody have any questions or comments at this time regarding this preliminary plat?
I do have some concerns.
There you go. Go ahead. Mr.
My concern is, well, question first, the proposed extension of Steinhagen Road, would that be to city standards, curb and gutter,
Yes.
linking back to Dogwood? I don't see folks here tonight. There were some folks here before when they thought that this was on the agenda, voicing concerns about traffic coming off of, is it Pin Oak?
Yes, from
Cutting
the
through
south.
there. Adding 66 residences in there with, in my opinion, the wide enough road to service it is Pin Oak Road. And that is a bit disruptive to those folks in that neighborhood. I think that we certainly need to use caution and consider how this and any other addition to the area would impact their way of life. The other two areas, or three areas, I guess, would be Steinhagen off of the outer road, which is narrow and, in my opinion, not designed to handle this kind of traffic, off of McGee, which is already a nightmare of an intersection, or off of Dogwood, which is also, at best, I've been traveling that very regularly since my son found a girlfriend over there. Coming out of there is always a crapshoot with the low visibility. I'm concerned about all of the routes that carry the cars into this. If you've got 66 residences, let's say at best 132 cars, each one of them making at least a trip out a day, that's a whole lot of traffic to throw into this. I think we're facing somewhat the same situation we did off of Morgan Street when we had a proposed development there, and we have the city infrastructure leading up to it. I don't believe is adequate to carry this volume of traffic.
Basically, there's three outside of this, right?
Yes, it'll be two on...
South side and one on the north side?
One on the south side and two on the west side on to Steinhagen, which will run from McGee north to Dogwood.
My concern isn't necessarily the infrastructure within or exiting out of this subdivision. It's all of the roadways and infrastructure leading to this. Just my 2 cents.
I did want to validate that the gentleman did show in the PowerPoint presentation that all of the buildings and the lots and everything was up to city code. Were there any variances that were asked for or anything that did not meet expectation? No. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. What was our, and I didn't research this ahead of time, I should have, but what is our standard, like, I thought the house that, like, we had something in the ordinance that was passed, wait, I can't remember how long ago. So the minimum was 1,200 or something like that?
1,200 square feet for the...
It's on the plan.
For the house. And 10,000 for the lot size.
Okay, the lot size, gotcha, all right. And then, I do have concerns about, like, parking, for example, because I know we extended the driveway, I think, I can't remember, ordinance, how far, like, how, the length of the driveway. But with this many houses, I mean, they're gonna be they're allowed to park on the street, correct?
Yes.
So at best, you can have four cars parked in one property?
Well, each, if I'm not mistaken, each house will have its own driveway.
Yeah, can you, like, just give me a little visual so I can understand where that would, like, play out?
The lots are 70 feet wide, 72. You know, and the driveway will be about 16 feet. Maybe when it spreads out a little bit, about 20 feet. So you'll have another 50 feet in front of each home. for parking. Generally, cars are, they say 20 by 10 is a parking spot, but, you know, you could put more cars, probably 3 cars could park there. The driveway, the front yard setback is 30 feet from the right-of-way line to the garage.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Matt's trying to fit as many 3-car garages in there as he could, but I don't know if he's going to have much luck with this width of the home. So if you have 2-car garages, you'll have 2 cars in the garage, potentially the owners, and you can park 2 more cars in the driveway. Well, within the property, since it's a 30-foot setback.
Okay.
So we've got about 7 cars for each lot, and then, you know, it's probably pretty much a rarity for everybody to need parking in front of their house. So, you know, yeah, I know everybody has parties, but you know how that goes. You spread out throughout the subdivision.
I'm not familiar with, you said Thornton is the builder?
Yeah, Matt Thornton.
I don't think we have anything local with that at this time? No builders? Do you have?
St. Louis and Winsville, I'm in currently.
Right. That's what I thought.
His houses are pretty good size, and they probably won't fit on these lots, I know. So he didn't have any house plans to bring in here for you today, because he's got to draw a new plan for the 50-foot width that we're going to have available for each home.
Okay.
These are preliminary. Don't hold me to them. Just
Sure.
what they're gonna look like.
Pass it around.
This is what my architect and I are currently working on. You two could share that. I'm sorry, I don't have enough.
That's fine.
That's okay.
Good looking home.
Thank you.
We've got one over here.
Okay.
He's got one. Thank you.
Here's another one for you. Thanks. So,
Can you state your name for the record, sir, at the podium, if you don't mind?
Matt Thornton, I'm with MH Thornton Homes, and of course the development of it too.
Okay.
And those are preliminary drawings that I'm working on with my architect. And then once we do more of our due diligence and topo and find out more things, we're going to work on one with 3-car garage. So
Do you have one that you could pass to the ladies there that I
just gave them.
well, here, we have one right here.
Yeah, we have one of ours.
Yes, this
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Thornton.
A deep ravine behind our condos on Arlington Court. How's that going to affect the water flow from this new area of building? I'm concerned that that's going to back up into our ravine and cause flooding.
That would be the area behind Lot 7, I guess? Or 7, 8,
Well,
9, 10?
My address is 1030 Arlington Court. And I'm concerned for all those houses there, because that land is flat. So how are you all going to drain that water so it doesn't drain into our street on Arlington Court and the condos?
When they start moving dirt, they'll be responsible for anything of that nature.
I hope so.
The developer will be in charge of that and follow the rules of the...
Okay.
But we will take that into consideration. Thank you, Ms. Blevins.
Welcome.
I just want to come back to briefly, and I'll try not to beat the dead horse, but I understand that our zoning, this meets the lot size restriction, the square footage proposal. I know that it meets what is allowable. I would just, again, caution that just because it's allowable doesn't mean that it is the best fit for this land, this usage. And again, please consider, if anybody has frequently tried to turn off of 47 onto McGee Street, whether you're northbound or southbound, or traveled Steinhagen off of the South Outer Road, kind of behind Subway and behind Fast Lane there.
Does this require a traffic study? I don't know, right? No, right? I didn't think so. Okay.
Well, I sympathize with anybody when it comes to more traffic, but that's just the nature of the beast, in my opinion. I mean, you take the subdivision that's behind the Warren County Administration Building. You know, that's one exit that comes out of there, and there's well over 66 houses, more than 66 houses, because I'm the president of that association. And, you know, and we were concerned about that when those houses, those new houses got built in there as well. And I mean, that's what my point was. There's 3 exits coming out of this subdivision to get to, the people will have a strategy to get out, you know, of this subdivision. Go ahead, Mr. Costello.
I was just going to say, if I may, you know, I think all the concerns are valid and legitimate, and, you know, I certainly share some of Mr. Cornell's concerns about the adequacy of Highway 47 in particular along that stretch. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, we've got those issues at that stretch of road, whether this development occurs or not.
Exactly.
And, you know, I think there's a pretty high likelihood, and don't forget, we've got another subdivision that's recently approved over west of the Hawthorne Village Apartments. Now granted, that's R1, but we're going to have more traffic going up and down 47. There's no way around it. And, you know, those of us that have been around here since my high school days, you know, basically you could drive from Interstate 70 to the Washington Bridge, and the only traffic control you'd encounter the whole way was the 4-way stop at Main Street. And, you know, little by little in our town, we got another 4-way stop at Veterans Memorial and 47, and then a traffic light. And, you know, these things, they don't all take care of themselves, but they'll have to be addressed. Whatever development goes in here, those things will have to be addressed on Highway 47 by the state of Missouri. You know, unless the city of Warrenton wants to put a big project together and put a bunch of money in for it. And so, and as much as I hate to see beautiful open rolling hill property, and in this particular property, I grew up in the 5th house on the right-hand side of Dogwood Drive before the houses on Redwood ever went in. And, you know, so this was playground to me. And Mrs. Pope never caught me on her property, but I was over there a lot. So,
Want that on public record?
you know, honestly, my biggest disappointment is that her house is going to be a casualty of this project. And that's my biggest disappointment. Forgive me if I got the name wrong, Mr. Miners pointed out, you know, our master plan basically considered this property to be future multifamily development. So as much as we are talking about traffic and concerns about traffic, if it were multifamily and we were seeing, I mean, look at the conversations we've had with some of the multifamily developments in this community in the last few years, and legitimate concerns about those things. And we've got a developer who, as far as I can tell, is trying to get every last lot he can out of the property, but that's neither illegal nor immoral. That's just simply him looking out for his best outcome. But at least we're talking about 66 single-family residences and not 200 and some apartment units. So
I don't disagree there, Mr. Costello, but again, we talk about 47, that's not my issue. It's McGee Street and it's Steinhagen Street, and if the city wants to spur development, they need to get their infrastructure, and we as a board need to remain consistent, because we use the same substandard infrastructure leading to on Morgan to deny a development there. I don't think this is much different when you consider the width, the turn radius of 47 and McGee, the condition of Steinhagen. I think we're being inconsistent, but I'll let it rest at this point.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, can I add something?
Yes, you may.
So, one thing to keep in mind when you're comparing different developments, and I'm not familiar exactly with the one you're talking about, but you have different levels of discretion and review depending on what approval is before you, right? So whether it's a rezoning, right? In a rezoning, you have a lot more discretion to consider other factors, traffic being a significant one. For a preliminary plat, your discretion is a little more constrained to whether the code is met. So that's the question really before you tonight, is whether the preliminary plat meets all the code requirements or not. I don't know if it does. I think Mr. Burks indicated that he felt it does. And for a preliminary plat, that's really the
Thank you very much. And I would like to add too that, been on this board for a long time, as few of you have been. This is something that we've been looking to do for a long, long time. I don't even know what the price point of these houses are, but when I moved here in 1990, you couldn't find, and we've been talking about this for many, many, many years, of having nice new places that people could move here. And if you talk to the Economic Development Committee, the number one thing they hear about complaints when businesses look to this community, there's not enough rooftops. And like Mr. Costello said, we could put 66 houses, or we could put 240 apartments or whatever. And I think the other parts of it, the streets and stuff like that, will be a concern, but we can deal with that later, and hopefully that will take care of itself. And within the development, they'll take care of that themselves, I'm sure. They're not going to put something together that's not going to be adequate for their people that are buying those houses as well. But I'll open it up to anybody else have a question or concern at this time.
I have one more.
And reminder that this is like the preliminary plat. Go ahead, Ms.
I have one more question.
McCullum.
And I don't know if this is relevant for right now or for later, or even at all. Do we know if this is like an incorporated subdivision, like going to be, or
It's LLC. So what do you mean?
Are you asking if
meaning
they're
like,
going to have,
like HOA
Association.
and stuff? We don't know that, right?
they'll make that decision later, I'm sure.
Okay.
Like an
Like
HOA?
HOA?
He doesn't.
Yeah, you'll have an HOA.
Can you go? Please, thank you.
I understand, certainly there will be an HOA established for the development. that-
Okay, so with that HOA, who's taking care of the roads inside the subdivision?
Well,
They'll be turned over to the city.
We're petitioning
City, right?
for
Okay.
public streets. and
Perfect.
Public infrastructure, as much public as possible, and if other things aren't going to be accepted by the city, then that would be the responsibility of the homeowners association to
Okay.
maintain.
Is-
For instance, the detention basin areas.
Yeah.
Those will be maintained by them. The mailbox areas, and things that the city doesn't want to maintain. So then there will be assessments, and initially, it'll be Mr. Thornton and his team that will be over the homeowners association, and eventually, as there's more and more people move in, then they'll transfer the trusteeship.
So what common ground will the HOA maintain in this, in this plan? I know this is
You've got
preliminary.
common ground in the two detention basin areas, and the other common ground is the one mailbox, the CBU on Dillon Drive. So, the rest of it will be private property.
Oh, I
and-
see it. It's super tiny. I'm sorry. It's just,
Yeah, it's not very big.
okay, I found it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miners. Anyone else have a question or concern at this time? If not,
I'd like
Go
to
ahead.
make a motion to approve the Westwood Farm subdivision preliminary plat as presented, discussed.
I'll second.
motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Costello to approve the Westwood Farm subdivision preliminary plat, subdivision 119. Any other questions or comments? We'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
No.
Mrs. Cullum?
Yes.
Ms. Madden?
Motion passes 7-1 with 2 absent. And that'll come in front of the Board of Aldermen
16.
January 16th. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, community, for your input. Next, we'll have just a discussion about storage containers in the commercial district. Mr. Burks, you want to bring us up to speed on that?
So last month, you guys voted on the storage container, the changes, and we added to the ordinance the semi-trailers. We had talked about not only just the shipping containers, but people using the tractor trailer and taking the wheels off and using that. So that was added to the ordinance. And that was the only change in that, but there was other discussion about the use of shipping containers for commercial use and other uses. So that's where we're at on that.
Can I ask, I've noticed, and maybe they've been there longer than I realize, but there are some shipping containers on a property near the Tribute to Veterans Memorial on Veterans Memorial Parkway that have been stacked in the parking lot of that business establishment for quite some time.
At the hotel?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I think they're for the renovation.
Okay. So
I
that's
noticed
temporary.
the last
and-
couple months.
Okay.
They've moved in. But I think that's for the renovation of the hotel.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure, but it's storage for.
So I can rest easy that when the project's over, those will disappear?
I can't guarantee.
Okay, does it include commercial in the ordinance that we had discussed? Or is it residential only?
Well, so that's one of the reasons for bringing it back, is, I wasn't at the last meeting, but my understanding is afterwards there was discussions about that question. So, right now, the way the definition is, it would apply to commercial, residential, industrial, agricultural, any kind of property. So I think the question for you guys then is, what is your real intent and what do you want to do? So I think everyone wants to make sure that people aren't using storage containers on residential property.
Correct.
But then on commercial property, do you want to allow them on a temporary basis? Do you want to allow them for construction? Do you want to allow them for storage of outdoor goods? On agricultural property, is that something different that maybe you don't care because the lots are so big? I think that's kind of the discussion today. And then, depending on where we go with this discussion, if you guys say, no, it's good as is, it'll go straight to the board. But if you say, no, actually, upon further reflection, we want changes X, Y, and Z, then we'll do a new public hearing and bring it back to you in February, to then go to the board in February.
Okay. So I do have concerns. One, even with commercial, I don't think they should be permanent. They should be temporary. I mean, I understand the construction pieces. Like, if you're renovating, yeah, okay, that's fine within reason. But if it's there all the time, like, you can't park at Walmart, really, because half of the whole space is containers. Within reason, and that is subjective, right? So the within reason has some boundaries to have to be defined. I understand that. So that's something that I think we have to have a discussion about. Agriculture, I don't have any preference because I think is that even city limit?
There are some zones on the city
We
that are
have city
agricultural.
that's agriculture. I don't know. I don't really know where our agricultural lands are. But anybody else have any other concerns about all the other zones?
One thing to think about is for commercial use, for commercial use, if you allow, say, for 60 or 90 days, with an option for an extension for another 60 or 90 days, and they're doing a remodel, and it's going to take a year, then, what do they do?
Like I said, the within reason, I think, would have to be defined, right? So if you submit to, I don't know, it's like if I have to build a pool in my backyard, I gotta go to the city, get permit or something. So same principle with a renovation or something. Then maybe there's some stipulation somewhere that says, I would have to have some kind of storage container for X period. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there to think about. Yeah. But the point is, I don't think it's there for years and years and years. That's not, I don't feel like it should be there.
So
I'd like
looking at
to
it,
suggest that these should maybe be considered somewhat separately. My concern, if we hold up the board's ratification of the restrictions on storage containers in residential areas, so that we can talk more about what we do and don't allow in commercial zones, that's just one more opportunity for somebody to slip one in under the wire. And my opinion is, if we feel like there should be some limitations in the commercial zones that don't already exist with respect to storage containers, that we should make that a separate discussion and a separate ordinance if we want to take it to an ordinance. And keep in mind, our industrial zones, business down on Main Street like Binkley or Holland Binkley, whatever we call it. If you've been here a long time, you call it Binkley. By nature of their business, they have to have storage containers there, because that's how they get their product
Gotcha.
out of the community
Yeah.
to deliver wherever it's going to go. So I think based on that, I would really rather see us move forward on getting a functional ordinance regarding storage containers, shipping containers, and/or
But
semi-tractor trailers.
my
In
understanding was
residential-
just.
in residential
but-
right now, right?
My understanding was, from what you were just saying, that if we go through with it now, it's everything. It's
You are
commercial,
correct.
it's residential. So if we move forward with it now,
All
then
are banned.
Binkley, which, thank you, because I still call it Binkley for forever.
What is it
Places
called
like
today?
that will all be out of ordinance as soon as this passes. So we need to consider stopping at this time. I totally agree with separating it, because I think residential versus commercial, commercial with an extension
Yeah.
like what you were saying of commercial by the end of said project, within 60 days, 90 days, with another extension being allowed if applied through the city, whereas residential should just be nothing. But if we move forward today, then every commercial is going to be stuck.
So can we bring forward the residential ordinance at the February meeting, and also on the agenda have a discussion on the commercial and?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can separate that out, right? We can do the ordinance just for residential and then separate a conversation for the commercial and,
'Cause I-
and et al.
Because I thought Mr. Burks had said that
Okay.
incidents of this is very few and far between, but what did you say?
Or
There was-
residential.
Right.
That
For
I know of.
residential, you were noting.
So far, yes.
You were noting that there was
Hopefully they're
basically
not watching.
one or two or.
Right.
They're basically outliers, like you said at this time, is the way that I perceived that.
When I worked code enforcement, I can't remember seeing any residential use for the containers at all.
Right, so that's what I feel like is, we should go ahead and agree to residential for the storage containers and the wheels kicked off trailers to be, as of, the board says yes, we move to that, and then we look at the commercial
Commercial.
aspect with actually getting the definition of, because the project, there has to be a completion date for projects.
Right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
they'll try to say, well, no, we still have a little bit more,
If
but
it keeps going, it's not a project.
anyway. that
Okay.
Is
would
this
be
a
my
discussion you
suggestion.
want to have with the board too?
Say it again?
Say
I
that
think
again.
we just want to have an actionable ordinance for the residential piece of the question by the next meeting, with the idea that if we need to discuss how to handle the commercial piece, that we start that process. In other words, as Mr. Cullum's saying, let's not put the limitations on the commercial zones right now, because it would create current violations of businesses that have operated as they do for decades. But at the same time, if we could get something, and if I'm saying it wrong, please let me know, but if we can get the home residential zone piece actionable and finished for the next meeting, and then we can work through the commercial questions as a separate ordinance.
Okay, do we need to do like move a meeting, like, what do we call it? Make a motion?
No.
No, okay,
No,
perfect.
so the residential part is the easier part, right? So we can have that back for you in February.
Okay.
Is there anything that I could do or that we could do to be helpful for the commercial discussion in the future? I know what other,
So,
I think scenarios or use cases might be helpful of what they would be used for, so we can have better, like, informed decisions. I don't know, based
And I
on
don't
your
think we want to
experience.
open it up to a long-term, put it on a short-term with the
Right,
use of, or
Yeah.
ability to renew that extension if needed, you know what I mean?
Waiting for commercial, no permanent use.
Right.
Right.
something.
Well,
Unless if it's permanent, then it shouldn't be a structure. I don't know.
Well, I think if the containers are being used for the purpose of transporting material in and out, that's clearly the definition of temporary. It's when things get placed and put there and become a permanent storage
Fixture.
shed or something of that question. That to me is where we maybe ought to draw some lines. And the other one would be, in industrial zones, I think it's more palatable. You expect to see those kinds of things in the industrial zones, but out on highway commercial, that's not the most
Yeah.
pretty thing for people coming to our community to remember us for.
Yeah.
We keep, just for clarification, we keep talking about tractor trailers, those types of vehicles with the tires taken off. If the tires are still on it, is there another type of restriction that would cover that? Because I
If it's
see
a
that.
licensed vehicle, it's a licensed vehicle.
What if it's not?
Well, then they're in violation of code, right?
I don't, that's what I'm asking. Is there any part of our code that would?
Right.
Which can't be parked in the front, it's got to be parked in the back, and
Trailers can be parked in, they can be parked in the driveway.
yes,
Yeah, because,
The RVs have to be parked
yeah.
on the side or in the rear.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a vehicle, right, even if it's stationary for a long period of time, if it's a vehicle still licensed and at least appearing to be operable, you're not going to catch every fish in this net, so to speak.
Right. I'm thinking out loud, we had that at the development at Bruni Park for 3 or 4 years. There was one sitting there. I think there's one on the old, the lot where Cat 4 was, or Cat 5, whatever that is, in that fenced-in area. Now I see one sitting there for several weeks. So just food for thought.
All right, well, that gives me helpful marching orders.
you're welcome.
Thanks for your input, though, on that.
Thanks, you.
Yeah, appreciate
No
it.
problem.
All right, we'll close our regular meeting and turn it over to Mr. Burks.
So we will have a meeting next month. We'll have items on the agenda.
Anyone else have anything for the good of the group?
No, I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second that?
Motion by Ms. Cullum, second by Mr. Cooper to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?